Welcome to Movies for Days, your non-pretentious, easy-access movie chat podcast. These are the words that begin every episode of Movies for Days, right here at the Movies for Days network, your weekly deep dive into a different film of any genre, from any decade, with anybody's guess as to how we chose that movie that week. Available now on Spotify, Anchor, Podcast Addict, Audible, CastBox, Google Podcasts, and basically anywhere else podcasts can be heard. So if you're looking for a little less pretentiousness and a little more movie chat to your podcast, look no further than Movies for Days. That's movies as it is, four like the number 4, days spelled with a Z. Movies for Days. Check us out on Twitter at MoviesDays. Movies is spelled regular, days is spelled with a Z, because we're so cool like that.
Our world is dying. Fate has brought you here, John Carter. You may be the only one who can save us.
Welcome to the latest episode of the podcast that wouldn't die. I'm your host, Kevin. With me, as always, is Aaron.
Hello. You know, right behind you is a picture, a pillow of Nick Cage on a couch behind you in this video. And
Yes.
It's like the eyes are staring at me, like
they
trying
should.
to envelop me. It's kind of freaking me out a little bit.
And you say these things as if I just woke up here, like it was a horror movie. Like, how did I get? Wait a minute, what's in the room? How
You
did this
got all these
happen?
damn like plushies, like somehow you got a bunch of 6-year-olds, and then there's a sequin Johnny Cage.
Not Johnny
whatever.
Cage. Not Johnny Cage.
That's Mortal Kombat, isn't it?
It is Mortal Kombat. No, what's funny about my Nick Cage sequin pillow is we've had it for like years. We bought it for fun a couple of years ago. And then
Wasn't
we
it
went and-
from one of that family Christmas
It might have been.
white elephants?
It might have
from you?
been. But we went and saw that Nick Cage movie, The Unbearable Weight of Massive Talent.
Yes.
And there's a scene where Pedro Pascal is leading Nicolas Cage through his Nick Cage memorabilia like warehouse. And there's the pillow right on the shelf. And they like look at it. And Nick Cage, because if you, it's one of those pills where it's like if you brush it, then the picture kind of goes away because the sequins shift, whatever.
Right.
And Nick Cage's like, oh, and kind of rubs his face on Pedro's like, no, and like kind of rubs it back. Puts so the face reappears and puts it back on the shelf.
Oh my God, I just thought of a brilliant idea. What if you moved it one way and the eyes are closed, and you move it the other way and the eyes open up?
You can do all sorts of crazy stuff if you're so
Holy
inclined.
shit. How is that movie anyway? Because it looked ridiculous.
You know what? Okay. We're like, the audience doesn't know what we're talking about. But I will tell you this. It is more fun than you think it will be. Let me put it that way. It's not like
Just vague
hilarious. It's not hilarious knee slapper. But for the most part, it's pleasant. It's very pleasant and enjoyable. Is
it pleasant because you're obsessed with Nick Cage, or is it pleasant for non-Cagians?
I think it'd be pleasant for anybody. Honestly,
Right.
It's because you know
I
what
mean,
it is.
Pedro Pascal is pleasant. This
Pedro
came out
Pascal's great.
right before his super daddy bear thing on The Last of Us.
Yeah, that's exactly the super daddy.
Slutty
bear.
daddy.
That's what it No, that's become my thing. If I see a comedy or comedy adjacent film and I'm not like, oh, it's hilarious, I'm rolling in the aisle every 2 seconds, but I still enjoy it because it doesn't, you know what it is? It's comedies that don't have the jokes land, obviously, are a bummer, right? When there's something that's meant to be funny and you're like,
So you were saying you like comedies that aren't necessarily funny.
That's not what I'm saying at all. Damn your eyes. No, but you know what I'm saying? It's like there's like a level where the jokes aren't up here, but they're kind of here. And you're like, oh, well, that's kind of fun. You know what I mean? Where that's kind of the level. And I think that's this movie. It's like kind
it's
of
just escapism.
It's fun. It's fun, but don't go into it thinking it's like Coming to America or something where you're just like.
Which I've never seen. Is that
good? I when you tell me that, it drives me crazy. I can't. Are you a member of our family?
I was
It's
very sophisticated at the time that came out. I saw art films and foreign films, so
I I argue Coming to America may be the funniest comedy of all time.
you know I'm going
I
to watch
argue
it
that.
eventually, and I'll be like, Kevin says this is the funniest movie that's ever been created in the history of cinema, and
Yeah.
I'm going to be super disappointed, and then I'm going to burn your house down.
Well, I mean, ironically, when I saw Coming to America, the sequel, which you have to use the hand signal because it's confusing otherwise, because they both sound the same, not nearly as funny, but pleasant. But pleasant. So there you go. Anyway, we're 30 minutes into the podcast. This week, we'll be discussing the science fiction classic John Carter, starring Taylor Kitsch, Willem Dafoe, Dominic West, others. Each week on the podcast that wouldn't die, we discuss guilty pleasures and forgotten classics of the horror and sci-fi genres with a comedic twist, we hope. We're on YouTube, which some of you may be watching us, and you can listen to us as a podcast. So whatever rubs your genie. Rubs your genie, that's not a saying. Anyway, Aaron.
No one's rubbing my genie.
Aaron, how are you doing?
Oh my god, I'm a little tired, and I'm wearing the same outfit I wore yesterday, and this is yesterday's makeup. I just kind of did a little to remove anything.
Lovely.
I was a little tired. I'm a little tired. I went to see Real Toto with Fake Journey.
I do like Real Toto. And I've heard it's not Fake Journey. It's not Steve Perry. It's Real Journey with not Steve Perry, correct?
Yes. Whatever.
So that's
you want
real.
To say it.
It's real. It's not like Super Diamond or something, right? Yachty by nature. It is.
It is very difficult when you lose your iconic lead singer.
It is. It is.
But they six without Dennis DeYoung. I mean, AC/DC managed to make the transition. I think it's real if you then go on to make new successful albums with your sound alike. I say it's a cover band otherwise. You know what I'm saying? AC/DC got a sound alike, but then went on and had other hits. Journey, unfortunately, did not.
Brian Johnson is not just a sound alike for Bon Scott, first of all. Let me stop you right there.
First of all, he does sound an awful lot like
he
Bon
sounds.
Scott.
He has a similar thing going on, but he brings his own flavor to it. I mean, it's not like it's not like they got Rich Little, or Rich Litter, either one to step in. He's not like an impressionist or something. But no, okay, this is neither here nor there. We're all over the map. I, for some reason, started listening to the Beach Boys a little while ago. Just not their whole oeuvre.
No,
but a couple songs that I really enjoyed.
They got a couple songs.
A couple bangers. And then I quickly realized that their like peak was only a couple years, honestly, in the grand scheme of things. And frankly, Brian Wilson was only touring for even a fewer number of those years.
But he was still writing. I think that's the most important thing.
He was still writing through the late 60s. But by like the mid 70s, they were basically like a old timers band where they had no more new hits and were just touring. So it was like 10 years later. Like they had Pet Sounds in like 66. By like 73, they're like, we're just doing the hits. We're good. Because we don't have Brian Wilson wasn't writing for them anymore. So it was just like,
he suffered with mental illness. I just watched this terrible movie with John Cusack playing Brian Wilson, if you can believe it.
That is correct.
Pass, children, pass on it. It was super creepy.
Sad. Well, and also when you're the Beach Boys, and you were like, we don't really want to do kind of surfing songs anymore. Now what do we do?
Right. So and you shouldn't have to, but if your next songs, I mean, there are bands that morph and say F you. We're writing songs that we like versus we're chasing our hits. You know what I mean? You have to have a certain level of self-satisfaction. Hopefully they invested well. But yeah, it's like I saw Asia a couple years, 10 years ago, maybe.
It was the heat of the moment.
It was a new album. I'm like, dudes, these suck. And then begrudgingly, they threw out heat of the moment, a couple other hits, but they were dead inside while they sang it. Their eyes just went like kind of gray and matte, and the spirit left the body.
Well, it wasn't like Asia's catalog was that vast to begin with.
Well,
Let's be
that's the
honest.
thing. It's not like Toto's catalog was vast.
The devil you say. They have at least 8 hits that I appreciate.
I'm going to say 3.5 because I just heard them last night, and I'm going to pull out 3.5.
We've
but
talked
the
about
interesting thing is the lead singer of Toto is the voice of Simba in The Lion King.
You mean the singing voice?
Yes.
Okay. Because I was like, is Matthew Broderick the lead singer of Toto?
No, he was the singing voice in the Disney film.
Gotcha. Okay, let's get this train back on the tracks. Give us your 30-second.
Hang on. I'm not quite finished. So I was bored as hell with Toto, which I had full memory of being a kid going to the record store and buying an 8-track of Toto, their first album.
Whole time.
Yeah. So, and the record store dude mocked me, as they do.
Yes.
Toto?
Yep.
Anyway, I just want to give my 2 cents. I was not that into seeing Journey. I mean, it's just one of the most overplayed bands in the world.
I love Journey.
And I used to love Journey. But they were bringing their game. They have a huge catalog.
Mm-hmm.
Huge catalog. But my only complaint was Neil Schon. Everything ended up being, the song is 3 minutes, but it was followed with a 7-minute Neil Schon guitar solo.
Yeah.
I was like, okay, time to sit down. Toto was like, everybody stand up, here comes our hit. Now you can relax for the next couple of songs. Told everybody they could just sit down.
Oh, really?
They already know. And the other amusing thing was like the lead guitarist kid married like the piano player of Journey's daughter.
Oh, that's interesting.
Fun fact. Anyway,
it's kind of like Dennis Wilson allegedly married his cousin Mike Love's daughter. Did you know that? Allegedly, before he died.
Who's the piano player? The killer? Jerry Lee? 13-year-old cousin?
Jerry Lee Lewis, yes, his 13-year-old first cousin. Good times.
There you go.
30-second synopsis.
I don't know. John Carter is, I don't know, a Civil War dude or something. Yes, and he goes into a cave to make meth or something. Probably. And then an ancient alien shows up and he's transported into the time of Dune. And hijinks ensues, and now all of a sudden he's like a pacifist, but that ends up being like a genocide dude. He ends up from not wanting to fight the Red Men to doing a full genocide on other Red Men, and is somehow the hero, and then is transplanted back into the cave, which I'm sure is from The English Patient, where he's all old and crusty because apparently your body stays behind and you're just astral projecting. It's literally like, don't worry, darling, but no one's checking on your body. The end.
That works. Now, had you even heard of this movie before?
Isn't John Carter like the dude from Northern Exposure who married the chick from Nanny, I don't know, Brooke, Bo Derek?
Are you talking about the actor or the character, or what are you talking about?
I don't know. It's like that name sounded familiar, but I didn't associate it with this movie that I've never heard of.
Okay, you're asking if John Carter is John Corbett from
Northern Exposure? Maybe that's what I was thinking.
The guy who's also on Sex and the City? Is that what you're saying?
Yes.
No. This is Taylor Kitsch, who you know from, or maybe you don't know, from Friday Night Lights. He was Tim Riggins, the tailback.
Do you think I'm going to watch that bullshit? Come on, I already told you I'm a very sophisticated lady. And high school sports, Texas TV series? No. Now give me a little Melrose Place back in the day. That's a juicy bit.
Taylor Kitsch it's funny because the Friday Night Lights was a very successful TV show based upon a very successful movie that came out.
Which I also didn't see. I know that's hard for you to believe.
It's a different cast though, more or less. It was like the movie inspired the TV show kind of thing. And Taylor Kitsch was allegedly one of the breakout stars of Friday Night Lights. So there was a period right after he left Friday Night Lights where they're like, you are now the star of movies. And in the same year, he was in John Carter, and he was in a movie called Battleship, based upon the famous Hasbro board game, where he was the star of both these movies. And both these movies were colossal failures.
Let me just translate this for you. You're very popular, but we're not very confident on your skills. So we're going to throw a couple pieces of shit at you. If you can make something out of it, maybe something in the future.
Wrong.
But otherwise, you're going to disappear.
Wrong. They did not throw him. Here's a little something for you. These are like $500 million movies. They were putting their entire like budget for the year on him airing these movies.
I'm going to make a movie based on the game Battleship. First of all, that sounds insane. Why not? We're going to base a $500 million CGI movie on Snakes and Ladders.
Or when I was a kid, they called it Chutes and Ladders.
It's Snakes and Ladders is British. I don't know why that popped into my head first. I didn't want to pause and thinking, no, it's not Snakes and Ladders here.
I'm familiar with that. But that was the thing. It was like in the course of 1 year, they put him in these huge, big budget, like massive budget movies. And where people are like, these sound like horrible ideas to begin with.
Horrible. And he doesn't have the sense to say, this sounds like a horrible idea.
Well, he's not in a place where he's like, I'm turning down movies just yet in his career. He's not. He literally was like a TV star trying to make the transition to movies. And if they come in and say,
take it slow, brother, take it slow. At least read the script. Okay, let me just ask you this, because I don't know this name.
Yes.
Still working today?
He still acts. He's still in movies. And, he was in True, what is that? Oh, damn it. Not True Crime. What was the HBO
True
show?
Romance?
Not True Romance.
True Detective.
True Detective. He was in season 2
bless him.
Of True Detective.
And that was like 10 years ago? That was 10 years ago, right?
He's still acting. He didn't like retire or anything, but he's not, they're not giving him the keys to the city anymore.
No.
Now, again, having watched
I don't say it's
movies,
necessarily his fault, but sometimes you have to be discerning. I mean, sometimes you get along well with people, i.e. Nick Cage, they just keep throwing shit at you. He's going to be working. He's going to be 175 years old. They're going to wheel him in like Hannibal Lecter and still hand him a check.
That is true. Like what they do with Bruce Willis, sadly. Where it was like literally, you come in, work for 2 days, you don't know what's going on, we'll give you a cool mill just to put your name on the poster.
Or is this just other people making money after?
There's that too. Yes, where he's basically just a puppet on a string.
He doesn't need it.
Well, and at this point, he can't really do anything. He can't even do that anymore. That's the sad story about that. But so Taylor Kitsch did these movies. And you can tell, I mean, John Carter, having watched this movie. Okay, let's go back. So
is this based on a book or something? Or a video game or a cartoon?
Yes. The John Carter series are a series of books. They're this other series written by Edgar Rice Burroughs, who wrote Tarzan. Okay.
All right.
So he had the Tarzan series. He had the John Carter series, and I think, unless I'm misremembering, he had the At the Earth's Core series of books as well. Like there's that movie with
Journey to the Center of the Earth.
It wasn't. They were similar. Journey to the Center of the Earth was Jules Verne, where they like
that's what I thought.
They went down to like some caves beneath the earth. Whereas I think At the Earth's Core, they have like what's called like a steel mole, like a thing with a big drill on the front, like it's a tank that kind of drives down into the earth. They made a movie in the 70s with Peter Cushing and oh god damn it, what is his name? I can't remember. But there was so he wrote, Edgar Rice Burroughs, famous novelist, wrote these different series. Now he's most famous for Tarzan, and that's why Tarzana is called Tarzana, because that's where his ranch was. Tarzana, California.
What?
Yeah.
I
Isn't that
actually
interesting?
did not know that. That's
That
a fun
funny?
fact. Fun fact.
Fun fact. Well, and you think when you hear the name Edgar Rice Burroughs, you think he's British, but he's not. He's an American. Just
It's the whole
American from 100
hyphenation.
years ago.
The
So-
hyphenated name makes you sound fancy.
It's a fancy. So you had never even heard of this, is what
No.
you're saying.
No.
I had heard of it, and I remember the movie coming out, but I wasn't. And again, the book series are called John Carter of Mars, is what they're called, or the series.
Okay.
They shortened the title to just John Carter. And then I guess overestimated that the people who would go see a movie like this knowing anything about John Carter is essentially.
Well, I mean, that's where publicity comes in.
right.
I mean,
That's
there's a
the thing.
lot of movies that people don't know nothing about until they see their advertisements.
Right. Well, and they usually make an effort.
Did
to,
you know
like-
what Sophie's Choice was going to be? Did you think it was going to be chicken nuggets or a hamburger?
I thought it was chicken nuggets, if I have to be honest. That's what I thought they were talking about. So no, I remember the movie coming out, and I remember it not doing well. And then we got Disney Plus a couple years ago, and it was one of the movies because it's a Disney movie. And I watched it, and I was like, okay. So I had actually seen this once before, and we'll talk about our ratings later. But I was familiar with this movie prior to this watch. But you're going in cold.
I'm going in cold. No idea. I did no research. I gotta let it wash over me.
Just luxuriate in the madness.
No. And it did not absorb. It's like my skin had a protective coating and it washed away from me. It washed away from me. It
That'll
would
do
not
it.
absorb.
Okay, we're 20 minutes in, so why don't we jump right into
Well, 20
the highlights?
minutes in, I started to reach for my phone. I'm like, wonder what's on the ticker talker.
You did send me a text message saying, I'm bored already. Was your first
It was like the first 3 minutes. I was like, oh, what is this shit?
So let's
As soon
start
as
with
I saw
highlights. Go
Bryan
for it.
Cranston, I was like, what hijinks are ensuing here?
And he's in 5 minutes of the movie.
I
He
know.
pops in at the beginning, and then you never see him again. You see a skeleton later.
Well, you got to remember, Bryan Cranston was he was like the hardest working man in showbiz, but before he got super famous. So he was literally in everything.
Mhm.
He would show up. He was in Seinfeld, and then he had his own series with Malcolm in the Middle. He was everywhere. Every series Bryan Cranston appeared in.
But this is like post Breaking Bad. This is him
Is
trying
it?
to give. Yes, this isn't that long ago.
God.
This became like 10
I was
years
gonna
ago.
write this off as this is probably some early '90s bullshit.
No.
This is what? The
Yes.
quality is terrible. What the hell? I thought it was. I didn't even look up the year. I thought this was some old timey shit.
No, this is like
They
2012.
said, Brian, I got a bag of money. Would you like that? Okay.
Well, and you figure, I mean, Breaking Bad was a huge show. So you figure he's going to be like a main character in this movie. Spoiler alert, he is not.
That's
He
like
is barely
Psycho
in
when
this.
the main character gets killed off. Your biggest star gets killed off in the first 20 minutes.
That is true. Poor Janet Leigh. That's okay. Let me tell you this. Scrolling through the cast list, David Schwimmer plays an
Yes,
alien.
I saw that.
And I don't know who. I was like trying to figure out who's the Schwimmer in this because he's like a green alien with 4 arms. John Favreau
Yes.
is another alien. Same thing. Have no idea who they're playing. They probably have like one line, and it's like blink if you
Which
miss
is
it.
ridiculous because now you're spending all this money, unless they're agreed to do scale, you're spending all this money on all these people for one-liners or one sentence or whatever. It's totally unnecessary.
I mean, because it's like an inside joke. It's something you can laugh with about with your buddies after the fact, where the
But I can
audience is just
see-
going to miss it.
I could see Favreau being into that because he's
Yeah.
into all that stuff. But
I agree. But what about
the rest
Schwimmer?
of them, Yeah, he doesn't
Schwimmer
know
was
what the
just
fuck.
like, I got to pay
Schwimmer
the
doesn't know
bills too.
what this stuff is. He's not reading Edgar Rice Burroughs.
He might
Yeah,
be.
dude, that's my favorite. No, I'm gonna go right on a limb and say no. He never
No
heard
can
of this.
do. Okay, I'm going to jump right in. I found it fascinating that on Mars, breathable atmosphere, no problems at all, and all the quote unquote human like people all just speak English. So that's good to know.
No, they gave them. No, they don't speak English. They gave him that slop.
He couldn't understand the green Tark people with the 4 arms. But at the beginning of the movie, when there's a battleship where they're fighting, shooting lasers, they were already speaking English.
So this is my theory because I thought
Please.
about this. Because right now, planets in front of the sun are too hot.
Yes.
Planets behind the Earth are too cold.
Yes.
So maybe we're actually not in the future, but we're in the past. So maybe there was one other planet before Mercury. You know what I'm saying? So
I don't know what you're
Mars
saying.
is slightly. All right. So my theory with the universe is
Oh, here it
eventually
comes.
all these planets get pulled into the sun, right? It takes a long time.
Where do you base this upon? Just your own weird.
My personal thoughts. So
Okay.
my theory is that there was a planet before Mercury. So the planets are moved over one tick, and that would make Mars the livable planet.
Interesting.
So
Interesting
in my
theory.
idea, then Earth is farther away. So at this point in time, Earth is too cold. So
Interesting.
I say they've gone back a million years in time.
And that makes
How
them
about
speak
that?
English? Is that what you're saying?
That's right. That's why English is the best.
That's why English is the best. Now, did you understand why John Carter could just leap around? Well, what the idea was
Gravity.
by that.
It has a different gravity, but it only affects you like the first 15 minutes you land on the planet.
Well, I guess he gets to Mars and he's like unable to basically walk because his stride is so powerful it kind of leaps him forward like a frog. But eventually he gets it together. But it's also like he's supposed to be super strong. Like at one point he punches one of the green aliens and just kills it with one shot. Boom. But later in the movie, he's having sword fights with people, and that don't see a lot of super strength in those moments. So I don't know
No,
what's
isn't that
happening.
interesting? What if is he Superman?
He could be Superman. Because remember, Superman able to leap tall buildings in a single bound.
Single bound. Yes.
Right. Because Superman
Maybe
originally
he's
couldn't
Superman.
fly. Did you know that?
It seems to me like, at least in the old cartoons, that was it. He could leap.
Right.
It didn't say he could fly.
Yes, Superman's powers, is apropos of nothing, have changed drastically. Since his first creation, he didn't fly.
Then later on, he could shoot laser beams out of his eyes and all kinds of crazy shit.
He had X-ray vision eventually, but then he could change the X-ray vision just because it's like it's X-rays, it's like radiation. Now he could just shoot like lasers. It becomes heat vision eventually.
Can he just see people naked? Like you don't go look at their skeleton, you just look at them without their clothes on?
Well, if you give somebody an X-ray, do you see just through their clothes and then just see their naked flesh underneath?
You see outlines of boobuses and dangling bits.
That's not enough. I don't want to just see an outline if I have X-ray vision.
You just want the X-ray to see through the clothes.
That's all I need.
Everybody's just walking around naked.
Naked? Well, not everybody. I want to be able to turn it off every now and again, depending on who walks in the room. Oh, sweet Jesus. There's a lot I wrote down about this where I'm just like, what the heck does this
mean?
Because
I wrote down 4 things.
So that they refer to the human-like people as like the red people. Is that because they were all kind of tan? Is that the idea? What we're talking about?
And that seemed to be the theme. They had red tattoos. They were wearing red things. And it's very specific because he was protesting killing of the red men back on planet Earth.
Yes.
And now he experiences other red men which he has no problem just doing a full like genocide with.
That's
And
correct.
he also killed about almost the entire population of the weird llama things. They look like, what was that horrible green thing from Star Wars that had the Jamaican accent?
Jar Jar Binks.
So it's a whole platoon of Jar Jar Binks that he also massacred.
Yes.
Jar Jar
yes.
with he didn't get his wisdom teeth removed.
That is correct. Well, and that's it. Okay, look, I'm not familiar on the skills of your average Confederate soldier in World War II, but he is a master swordsmith, to say the least. I mean, he is slicing and dicing against people who have been using swords their entire life. Like he's kicking ass.
He's a
right.
genius.
He isn't
He's
sword
a
proof.
genius.
At least we haven't established. You get stabbed, he can still get stabbed, right?
But does he die in both worlds?
So that's the other thing about this movie. I think in the books it is kind of he goes into a dream and then wakes up in Mars kind of thing. So I think
like
they were trying
astral projection. It's like
it is an astral projection kind of thing.
And it's Don't Worry Darling, where you're just asleep and you're living in this fantasy world. Except here nobody's cleaning.
Well, and no one's feeding you or anything. I mean, so when he eventually goes back to Earth, he's all stiff and crunchy. You know, Bryan Cranston is literally a skeleton in the corner. Yeah. Like, how long has he been gone?
Skeleton. And so, wouldn't he also be a skeleton?
Yes. No one's feeding your body or giving it water. You're in a cave in the desert, probably being eaten by coyotes.
Years. Yeah, yes. He was getting up like he was a cicada, and just chunks of filth were breaking
like a mummy.
Off of him.
He was essentially a mummy. Yeah, they didn't explain all that stuff. So, good grief.
It's not science nonfiction.
It is. Well, and that's the thing about this movie. It's like they said they were trying to make it because I guess the director / writer was a huge fan of this series of novels. So he's like, I want it to be as, true to the books as it is. And then people argue that it's not anything like the books at all. So who the hell knows? It makes no sense. I've never read the books, so I can't comment on it at all.
Honestly, it really does feel like an older movie. I mean, it feels like, I don't want to say Raiders of the Lost Ark, but
don't say that.
There's no quest or anything, but I mean that was an amazing movie.
Yes, not John Carter.
Not John Carter.
Not John Carter.
You know what this smells like as far as those kind of fake period adventure movies? There's your peak at Raiders, the original Raiders.
I agree.
Then they started having these things like King Solomon's Mines.
It was Richard Chamberlain.
And then Romancing the Bone and all these other things. And then this is like the most current one. You figure people get better at writing, making movies, which is literally the worst.
Well, the guy basically, and this happens a lot, this was the guy who had successfully brought like Finding Nemo to the stage, or to the screen, I should say. He was Pixar. And on stage. He was he was a Pixar guy. Okay, so he was the director of Pixar. This is his first live action thing that he did, and they gave him carte blanche to do whatever he wanted to do. And that was a problem. I mean, and I'll say this, I'm not sure that Taylor Kitsch as John Carter is all that electrifying to watch.
Yeah, he's kind of boring. He's not that interesting. And I don't know if that's the writing, if that's his style. You've seen him in other stuff. Is he compelling? Or did they hire him because they thought he was cute?
I mean, it could be as simple as that, right? I mean, he's supposed to be from Virginia, but the actor's from like Vancouver or something. So it's like, it doesn't...
Hey, knock it off, hose heads. I'm a boot.
Pretty much. Take off, eh?
Take off, eh?
Yeah. So that's... Which is not how they speak in Vancouver, as far as I know. But that's neither here nor there.
Racist? Are we racist against
some of us are.
Well, quite frankly, it is other Canadians who gave us these stereotypes. So we have to believe it's true.
They're to blame. So he he is a unwilling fighter because I guess he was in the Confederacy lost, and then kind of there's a flashback scene where it's like his wife and child are killed in a fire. Do we know what?
We
They
don't
didn't really
know.
explain
He was
what the story
away.
was. He was
So
away.
the Confederacy lost, so he already is like a crazy racist. So, and then he joined the Union Army, or they captured him.
No.
And they captured him and wanted him to work with them, and then the commander knows him and they're buddies.
Okay.
Did I pick up my phone too soon? I mean,
I think you might have.
How does everyone know him?
Okay, from what I can gather, he was a soldier. They lost, obviously. And then his house burned down because, I don't know, his wife left the iron on. There's no explanation what happened.
I don't
Something
know.
happened.
She fell asleep on the stove. I don't know.
She was smoking in bed. Who knows what happened? But whatever the case may be, he comes back. His family, his home is burned. They're all dead. So at that point, from what I can gather, he goes west to Arizona or New Mexico or something to become a crispy old prospector looking for gold. And while he's there, he gets like an affinity for the local Apache that live there.
Is this like Little Big Man or something?
It's like Little Big Man with Dustin Hoffman.
It's Dances with Wolves.
It is. It's exactly what they're going for.
Dances with Costners.
So Bryan Cranston is the colonel of, it's not the Union Army anymore, it's just the Army, who is trying to recruit Taylor Kitsch to be like his guide, kind of a Jeremiah Johnson kind of situation. Like, hey, but for some reason, every time he tries to have a conversation with Taylor Kitsch, he's like flipping out, fighting him, jumping out the window. It's just like, what the? So they finally just try to arrest him. And then he escapes anyway.
Like they're besties.
Well, eventually, again, not a lot of explanation.
Just because of hijinks, I'm pretty sure the Army back then, they just beat you to death if you tried to run off. So
but
he
wasn't in the Army.
Shanghai him? I
know.
They're Shanghaiing him, except there's no ship to put him on. So they're going to put him in a cage until he
gets his shit together.
Translator?
Until he calms down, basically. Until he just calm down. Let me get the words out.
Weed.
Yes.
The gypsum weed. He's very agitated. And he's
so he escapes from the jail, steals Bryan Cranston's horse, and then they all chase him. And of course, they turn the corner, and there's a bunch of Apache waiting there. And Taylor Kitsch is having a conversation with the Apache guy. And of course, one of the soldiers just shoots one of the Native Americans
for it.
For no reason. For no reason.
Always
so then, of course, anarchy breaks. Everyone's killing each other. Taylor Kitsch bolts, runs off. Bryan Cranston tries to follow him and gets shot. And then Taylor Kitsch is like, I know I've been fighting you and you threw me in a cage, but I'm going to go back and I'm going to save you for some reason. Grabs the gun, bullet-riddled Bryan Cranston. They gallop off. All of the Apache follow. I guess they took care of all the soldiers in 5 seconds.
Right.
Follow them to a cave where they go, oh, there's the cave of the spider that has the spider symbol or whatever.
I thought it was a sun. I will say spider.
But that's what he kept saying. It's a spider, but you're right. It was obviously the sun. And in that cave, that's when that's where he discovers all the thing. And then the weird alien dude appears and tries to kill Taylor Kitsch. Taylor Kitsch shoots the guy and takes his medallion and says Barsoom, which is how they...
He was just repeating what the dude was saying.
That's correct. He repeated what the alien dude says and is instantly transported to Mars for the vast majority of this movie. So there it is. Good times had by all.
All right, couple of things.
Please.
Did the alien not look like To Serve Mankind alien?
Not at all.
He's dressed exactly like that.
They're skinny with tusks and forearms.
The alien, the wise bald people.
They also
Jar Jar.
They had big old weird heads in To Serve Man. What are you talking about?
They are dressed First of all, they dress exactly like the Twilight Zone, To Serve Mankind, and I also find it very interesting because, of course, it's all men doing these films. So bald men are always the wise wizards in every one
I
of
think we
these
can
things.
agree. Hashtag facts.
Hashtag facts. Hashtag Trump. Thank you.
Wait, I didn't say that. So that, but you bring up the point.
That smells like a Trump fact.
Oh, fake news? Is that what you're saying?
Fake
Interesting.
news.
But so there's a weird thing that's not fully explained, that there are these people who are immortal, who are coming down to help the bad guys.
Yes, to serve mankind.
Right.
This seems like wasn't there another movie, the one that was filmed in Iceland, where there was like this kind of overlord that was changing the balance of the scales?
Maybe.
Or is that's also Game of Thrones, where there's this whole group just trying to maintain the balance?
So it's something like that, but we don't know who they are or where they come from or what their ultimate goals are, other than you say like, oh well, sometimes planets, have their peaks and then their valleys and yada yada yada. It was like,
then why are you interfering if it always happens? It's true. Populations rise. As it rises, people get more violent until the thing collapses, and then
none of it makes any GD sense. None of it makes any GD sense. There was a bizarre moment where the green aliens find John Carter, who again can break chains with his hand. He can jump around. He's throwing people 100 miles. He's captured. How? Not fully explained.
When later on, there's literally a sea of Jar Jars enveloping him, and he's killed like 100,000 of them, just in
piles of bodies all around him. He's covered in the bodies of people.
Yeah.
Yes.
For hours, but they're able to do it with just grabbing his hand, saying, let's go.
And then they treat him like he's a baby. So they dip him in some stuff and shave him and splash him with talcum powder. I don't know what was happening.
What he was, and yet they knew of the other people
who look exactly the same, right?
Who look exactly the same, but he confused them.
Yes, none of it makes any sense. This movie is ridiculous and madness. Now that being said, it was ridiculous, but it's also very long, so it's got that going for it.
That it do.
And then there's a weird weapon that the immortal aliens give the bad aliens, where it's like just a blue web that goes on your hand and you can shoot lasers at.
Is that Thanos or something?
It's some kind of Thanos thing.
Or is Thanos the lady who invented the machine? I can't remember.
That's Theranos, right?
Theranos.
We're talking about.
Yeah.
The little blue pill or whatever it was.
Thanos and Theranos. That's too close together. There has to be a
difference.
It's a different universe. It's a different part of the Marvel universe.
Do you have any last thoughts before we move on with our lives?
I thought there was a shitty nod to Braveheart when he crawled through the white monkey was all blue with a sword. I thought he was doing some Braveheart bullshit.
He does not get a scratch in this movie. He's shirtless the entire time. He's a master swordsmith. He's jumping around. But again, it's like these movies are crazy like this.
He's jumping around like Tiny Hulk in those movies.
Yes.
Being like the Thor movies where it's like bing, bing, bing,
like a giant flea where he's just bouncing around. But it's like...
And the Tiny Hulk was much more enjoyable.
The Tiny Hulk, exactly. He has super strength when the plot calls for it, but when they want him to struggle and not be quite so easy, then the strength seems to leave him and he's just normal human strength.
Ridiculous. Honestly, the only good thing about this entire movie is the weird newt dog, which normally I don't give a shit about animals and this kind of thing, but for some reason I love the little newt dog.
I did like the little crazy dog.
It was the only reason. Everybody else sucks.
It was just bizarre and strange. Shall we go behind the scenes?
Oh, please. Who is stupid who?
That I don't know. While filming at Big Water in Utah, the crew accidentally discovered a 60-foot-long sauropod dinosaur skeleton. Look at
Oh,
that. Just
how about that?
accidentally.
That's nice.
Let's see. The rights of the novels have since reverted to the Edgar Rice Burroughs estate, which is still game to try to turn the books into a successful movie franchise.
Because it was not successful this time.
And very sad.
I
Financially,
think, you know what? This is what you need to do.
lay it on
We
me.
need to go back to the old Sam Raimi TV days. Sam Raimi could do something with this. This could be
anybody
a new
could.
Xena. No, but I want a Sam Raimi redo because those were classics.
Okay, that's
Those were
fair
classics.
enough. Let's see.
A
Financially, the
Bruce
film was
Campbell
considered...
cameo, perhaps.
He's available.
He is available.
The film is considered one of the largest box office losses in Disney history. Even though the film performed stronger than expected outside the US, it contributed to Disney Studios' entertainment division reporting an $84 million loss in the first quarter of 2012. Loss was attributed to marketing.
You could feed a small country with this kind of shit. There's nobody supervising what's going on. Are people watching dailies? For God's sake.
Andrew Stanton, the writer-director, confessed that he wasn't too satisfied with how the movie turned out, and he confessed that part of the problems came from a first-time live-action director being drunk with power. And that's he's referring to himself.
Exactly. In the third person. That's nice.
That's always a bad sign when you refer to yourself in the third person.
It was Marlon Brando in Apocalypse Now. The horror.
For each of the super jumps that Taylor Kitsch performed, he was attached to a harness that allowed him to free fall at a speed of 80 miles per hour, which Kitsch apparently found unpleasant. Yeah, I bet he did.
Didn't fling him into outer space because this was terrible.
Edgar Rice Burroughs originally wrote these stories using a pseudonym because he was afraid he'd get ridiculed for writing such a tale. There you go. Willem Dafoe accepted the role of Tars Tarkas, which is the friendly alien chieftain, because he thought it was
unrecognizable. I
his
went
voice.
to look up the cast. I didn't recognize his voice at all. No.
Oh, I absolutely did. I knew that was Willem Dafoe instantly. He thought it would be interesting for him to act while wearing pajamas and walking on stilts. So that's what he had to do. Womp wah. Robert Zemeckis turned down the chance to direct this movie, saying that George Lucas had already pillaged all of that from with the Star Wars films. Basically, took all the best parts of John Carter.
Oh, they thought they'd squeeze that stone just a little bit harder.
Studio executive Rich Ross resigned his position at Disney Studios weeks after Disney predicted they'd lose $200 million on this project. So there you go.
Terrible.
Upon getting the director's position, Andrew Stanton told Disney, "I'm not going to get it right the first time. I'll tell you that right now." He was right.
How about something a little bit smaller? They were drunk with power too. They're like, he did Nemo. He's going to make us so much money. Let's just give him the key to the castle.
Very upsetting. Should we talk about the cast?
All right.
Or let's start with the crew, actually. Andrew Stanton was the writer-director. You know him from such things as WALL-E, Finding Nemo, Finding Dory, A Bug's Life. He did basically a ton of the Pixar films that were so successful. I guess that's why they felt, hey, we can just pass along the torch to you, big guy.
I mean, this could have been animated.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Okay, let's talk about the cast. Taylor Kitsch played John Carter. You know him from such magnificent films as X-Men Origins Wolverine, John Carter,
No.
Battleship,
No.
and 68 episodes of Friday Night Lights.
No. Okay, so he's a stranger to me.
No.
I can put him in my car, look at him before dialing 911 and have no clue.
Lynn Collins played Deja Thoris. It's interesting because she has like black hair and dark skin in the movie. She's a blonde-haired, blue-eyed woman in real life. So that's always interesting.
Yeah.
You know her from X-Men Origins Wolverine, John Carter. She played Portia in The Merchant of Venice, and she was in the number 23, the weird movie with oh crap, what's his name? Jim Carrey.
Oh God, I hate Jim Carrey. I hate Jim Carrey, except Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind.
That's a good movie.
Genius. It's genius. And I did, for lowbrow comedy, I do love the original Dumb and Dumber. It was so, I almost said something that's inappropriate, but it was so stupid. It made me laugh.
Let's see.
And usually that kind of stuff doesn't make me laugh.
Willem Dafoe played Tarkus, one of the friendly aliens. He was in Spider-Man. He was at Eternity's Gate, The Florida Project, and The Lighthouse, which I've actually heard a lot of good things about. So
and the Wes Anderson classic, The Life Aquatic.
He was.
Yes,
Samantha Morton played Sola, the daughter of the alien chieftain who's like hanging out with him the whole time. You know her from all sorts of stuff. Hang on.
Some stuff.
She was on The Walking Dead. She once
pumped gas over at the Costco.
That is correct.
She was once seen eating some Takis. Where do I know
She was
her
Agatha in The Minority Report. She was in The Messenger. She was in Cosmopolis, Synecdoche, New York. She was in... You saw Minority Report, didn't you?
I saw it on the plane, finally, and then I fell asleep.
She was the main, like, prophet or oracle or whatever that Tom Cruise is running around with.
Yeah.
And she was on The Walking Dead. She played the leader of the people who wear the zombie faces all the time. So good times.
That.
Thomas Hayden Church. Thomas Hayden Church played Tal Haggis, I guess that's his name. He was the alien with the tooth that was broken off, who was always challenging the other leader.
Oh.
Strangely enough.
We're going to refer to them as the Jar Jar. The Jar Jar with the broken tooth.
He was... Nemesis. You know him from Sideways, Spider-Man 3, Wings. Spider-Man No Way Home. Wings, absolutely. I loved Wings. I thought Wings was so great back in the day. Until he left, frankly. Let's see. Dominic West played Sab Than. He's been in a ton of stuff. What's funny is he was like the hero when he was on The Wire. But every movie I see him in, he's kind of the sleazy, slimy villain. You know him from...
I only watched one episode of The Wire. That's as far as I got.
It's great. He was 60 episodes as Jimmy McNulty on The Wire. He was in Chicago, The Forgotten, Tomb Raider.
He was in Chicago, the musical?
Yep.
Who did he play?
Fred Castle. Does that mean anything to you?
Yes. Oh, I know you're talking. So he was in Something About Mary.
No.
Isn't that him?
No.
Oh no, I'm thinking of somebody else. They do look similar though. Oh no, I totally know who you're talking about. You're talking about the prince that was going to marry
the evil prince.
Right, the evil prince. You're right. No, he's the one that promised Renee Zellweger he was going to introduce her to all these people and make her famous as long as she just kept stooping him. She's the one. That's the one who gets shot. That's why she goes to prison.
Gotcha. Yes,
That's why she goes to prison. She finds out he's married with 4 kids. Boom.
Gotcha. Okay, Bryan Cranston played Powell. You know him from Breaking Bad, 62 episodes as Walter White. My 8th grade students surreptitiously, but not surreptitiously enough, have been calling me Walter White, which makes me want to handle them.
Just WW? Mr. WW.
He was, for 151 episodes, was in Malcolm in the Middle as Hal Wilkerson.
It's interesting that he was there longer as Malcolm in the Middle than for
Breaking Bad.
Breaking Bad.
Yeah. Well, I think there were more episodes each season. I think that's the thing. Argo, he was in Trumbo as Dalton Trumbo. And like we said, he was Tim Whatley from Seinfeld for a handful of episodes, some of the funniest episodes. We talked about it briefly.
It was he exposed himself to Elaine.
Did he? No, the
Yeah.
one I
He
like
took
is when
it out. He took it out.
That was Tim Wadley?
That was Tim Wadley reoccurs 1,000 times, and it always seems to be like they've forgotten whatever horror he did the last time. He
No,
was
my
the
favorite is he's the dentist.
dentist. He
Give him
was
a
and
shtickle of
then it was the
fluoride.
dentist. A shtickle. He converted to Judaism just for the jokes.
Just for the jokes. It was hilarious. It was good stuff. Okay, let's go. Let's talk about the ratings, shall we? John Carter currently has a 52% rotten on Rotten Tomatoes. You know what the audience gave it?
42%.
60%.
That's still a D.
It's not bad, all things considered. Let's talk. Let me look at top critics. Are you ready?
Yes.
Leonard Maltin. As one of Pixar's star players, Stanton is an experienced cinematic storyteller, which is why it's disappointing that his first live-action project is so unwieldy at times. Still considered a positive score, though, strangely enough. Who knows?
Unwieldy. That's the worst he can say.
It's a little unwieldy. Oh, here's another one from Leonard Maltin. While we can still marvel at the amazing insights laid out before us, it is imperative that we never lose sight of who's who and what's at stake. That turns out to be a tall order. That's true.
These reviews are useless. Here's my. Are you ready? I can't. I'm jumping in.
Okay, go ahead, jump in.
Here's my Aaron Maltin review.
Okay.
Incoherent, slow, boring, inconsistent, boring. Aaron is giving it 1 out of 5. I'm gonna kick John Carter's ass into the stratosphere and hope he burns into the sun.
That seems excessive to me.
No, it seems like constrained. Don't bore me, brother. Don't bore me.
Yeah, I mean, I thought the movie was okay. I thought it was okay. I didn't think it was a horrible train wreck. It was obviously not great. I'm going to give it 2.5 out of 5.
Jar Jar Binks.
Jar Jar Binks. I mean, yes, it's not horrendous. I mean, you're saying it's a 1 star. I don't think it's that bad. You know, I just think it's just kind of mediocre. Is how I would describe it.
Is an all-encompassing. It could be. It's boring. And the fact that while I was Googling it, there are sequels is most horrifying.
There were going to be sequels, but they got junked. These may
have been straight to video or something, because I saw a John Carter 2.
Shit. Okay, that's probably some Asylum thing where they did like Atlantic Rim and Transmorphers or something.
Your Transmorphers.
This was going to be, like they said, the reason why they called it John Carter and not John Carter from Mars is because this was the kind of the intro to it, and that the sequels he would start be calling John Carter of Mars. So, such is life. Are you Googling something right now?
I'm already Googling something right now. You're right. Interesting. The book has an 89% rating.
Well, there you go. They're very popular. Very popular. Anywho, so thank you very much. Go to our page on Twitter. We're on Facebook. We're on TikTok and Instagram. We're all over the place.
We're all over the places, right?
We're doing those WTF videos that you can find on any of the sites that we visit. We do that twice a week.
Kevin has found a special purpose. Everybody has to have a special purpose, and Kevin has found his.
Like Dirk Diggler.
You're good enough.
That's exactly what it is.
What was the speech?
Are you talking about what, Stuart Smalley? And doggone it, people like me?
He goes in at the end of Boogie Nights and to psych himself up, and he has to take his giant. That's when you finally reveal the giant penis.
That's correct.
Which is taller than Marky Mark.
That's sad but true. Sad but true. Let's see. You can email us at the podcast that wouldn't die at Gmail. We are on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, anywhere the finer podcasts are available. And of course, we have our YouTube show that you can check out. So you have that to enjoy
Why
as
not?
well. So don't
Perhaps
forget
in
to
the future episodes, there'll be less chaos behind me. This is
perhaps, or perhaps not. Who's to
There's no
say?
guarantee. There's no guarantee.
There are no guarantees at all. That is sad but true. So like, share, rate, and review, and spread the word, won't you? Aaron,
Please.
do you have social media?
I have much media. I'm on the Insta. I am the cult of Aaron. Join the cult. I am also, I almost said I'm plenty of fish. No, I'm not plenty of fish. I am Don't Feed the Pigeon.
You are on Plenty of Fish, though.
I
Let's
am
be
not.
honest.
But that is where I met my ex, was on Plenty of Fish. Back in the old days. Where else am I? I am on Artsy, and I'm on First Dibs, Aaron Doherty, Polaroid Art. This week, which will be too late by the time this thing airs, I'll have work at the Bakersfield Museum of Art for sale. Don't you want to? Call ahead. Purchase something. I priced them very high.
Well, but it's worth every nickel.
It's
Let
worth
me tell you.
every dollar.
And we talked about John Carter today. You can also go to the No on 15 all cast and hear more of our views on John Carter, which is available anywhere you find podcasts.
I am concerned about this. You know, these homies are going to roll in going, this movie changed my childhood. It's John Carter's the greatest movie, and how disrespectful Aaron is by saying it's just a piece of shit.
That is pretty much every podcaster's reaction, Aaron's tomfoolery.
Basically, my job here is to tell a bunch of men that the movies they think are fantastic are pure crap.
That Aaron has lost the ability to experience joy is basically what it comes down to. Next week, we'll be doing the science fiction classic, The Last Starfighter, for goodness sake, with Lance Bass and Robert Preston. You can watch that.
Lance Bass is in it?
With Lance Bass. He helps out when he can. You can find that pretty much anywhere, but I think you're going to have to pay a little something for your efforts on Amazon Prime, Vudu.
Oh, I didn't have to pay for Amazon Prime because since I keep ordering a bunch of shit from Amazon, I had some digital credit. So thankfully, I didn't have to pay $4 for this treasure. So watch The Last Starfighter and send in any favorite scenes, favorite quotes, comments, or questions, and we may talk about it on the show. So thank you very much, and be well. Bye, babies.